ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. Last time we left at a what is that called? Cliffhanger. And what was that? The connection between the aparavidya, relative knowledge, that which must be known, as the teacher says in the Mundakopanishad, and Paravidya, the knowledge of what is called the absolute, or rather the knowledge that is absolute. This is something which is, we tried to illustrate with the 7 Vada story. All right. Yeah. So then, to go on that note a little more, to establish that connection by way of proceeding further in terms of this Upanishad, what we can say is that the relative knowledge, what is meant by aparavidya, has a very different connotation in the Upanishad. Knowledge of the relative doesn't mean much, when you translate it like this, because so many things are lost in translation. You see, knowledge of the relatives means what? I know who my mama is. That is a knowledge of one relative. So that is not what is talked about here. Relative, again, it's a laden word. Theory of relativity, all these things notwithstanding. And so therefore, we have to look at it from the standpoint of how the Upanishad looks at this issue. And the Upanishad looks at this issue in a very interesting way. The first portion of the Veda, which is Vidhi Nisheda Paraha, which is full of injunctions, Vidhi, and prohibitions. It's in a whole lot of do's and don'ts. Do this, don't do this. And then again do this. And no, but not this. And do this, don't do this. Why did you do this? And you must not do this. And so the whole thing is in the form of injunctions and prohibitions. And it is what do these what is the intention of these injunctions and prohibitions? It's a form of parenting. But I already have parents. Yeah. You do, definitely. And thank God, because there is some civilization as a result. So having parents means there is some home training, there is discipline, there is some discernment of how to behave in certain situations and how to not behave. There is some civilization of what might be called very impulsive, instinctual behavior, almost bestial instincts like snatch this, take that, have this, don't have that, all these things. So thank God there are parents. But the Veda is, is the is the grandparent of all the grandparents, the ancestors of all the ancestors. Here it's a different kind of parenting. There it was a different kind of parenting, because there was a curbing of these base level instincts, a kind of a honing of the personality, a smoothing of the jagged edges in terms of the parenting, and getting into a kind of a behavior patterns based on what is acceptable by society. But here too there is subjectivity. What is acceptable means what? That is just a bunch of people have somehow apparently got together and decided this is okay, this is not okay. Here too there is subjectivity. And in every form of parenting, Vyashti and Samashti, based on the collective and individual parenting practices, there is subjectivity. And that's because this is samsara. Samsara means subjectivity. So there are blind spots, even as far as the parenting and the parents go. Why? Because the parents themselves need to be parented. That's why. That is why there are blind spots. Okay, don't tell a lie. Satyam vada. But it's okay to lie under these circumstances. And then they make a difference also. White lies are okay. What do you mean by white lies? First of all, it's a very racist remark. White and black lies and white lies and all these things. And so there are severe problems with this kind of, the value system is understood but not practiced. And then there are certain desires which are seen as extremely primal and extremely necessary and for life, and because of that the values are universally the flouting of those values are universally condoned. Yes, it's okay if you have to be competitive and put aside all your competitors using not very nice methods. Yeah, that was not great, but it's okay because it is justified, because you do need to get ahead in life. And how else are you going to get ahead? It's a dog eat dog world. You better eat the next dog, otherwise it will eat you. This is the rationale. And then everybody nods their heads, and meaning there is a kind of an agreement on this kind of a rationale. And because certain desires press the override button on dharma, on the acceptable practices which already people know, and therefore the reparenting is needed. That's the first reason everybody, even the parents of the parents of the parents of the parents of the parents, need reparenting. Then the second reason why this reparenting is needed is because the first portion of the Veda, in other words, Aparavidya, is trying to make one ready for Paravidya. That's not what the original parents do. They don't think when the child is born, very few parents think that, oh, I want this child, I want it, they're holding the child and saying, I want it to have moksha and I'm going to raise it to have moksha. Who does this? Nobody does this. Very, very rarely. We are just, being optimistic here. Very, very rarely somebody will say that. Nobody will say that. What do you want of your child? You want it to be successful, you want it to be rich, you want it to be famous, you want it to be well educated, and then finally you want it to be, a good person, compassionate, etc., etc. Nobody thinks moksha is not on the horizon. Otherwise, the people who have moksha on the horizon, will not bother having children, because that's another long, it's like especially, if you're American, it's at least an 18-year commitment. And if you are Indian, forget it. You don't know when to stop parenting. That's the Indian problem. You keep parenting when you are 92 and your son or daughter is 62. And when a Swami comes to town, you complain, my son is not listening to me. This is a real life story from from one of my visits. I think it was in Washington, D.C. 93. came and said, you please make my son listen to me. I didn't know he was 93. He was very, strong and well kept. The body was, mind and body were tip top. So I said, where is your son? And maybe, oh, he's in the next room. He's gone to get something to drink. And because we were having break in between two classes, please tell him he doesn't listen to me at all. And then the son walked in. The son looked older than the father, actually. And 65, son is 65, father is 93. And he doesn't listen to me. And this is the problem. So that's why we have a when to for confused Indian parents, we have a when to stop parenting formula, which is easy to follow. Please stop parenting at 50. Oh, you mean when I am 50? No, 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 no. When your offspring, when your first offspring is 50, please stop parenting. Okay, that's nice and generous a time. A long leash has been provided. And so this is, this reparenting is needed because the first portion of the Veda is trying to bring one closer to moksha, being a possibility in one's life. Otherwise, moksha is not at all a possibility. With not even unless the parents are extremely enlightened, and that possibility is there in the Bhagavad Gita, it is given. When Arjuna asks in the 6th chapter, what will happen to me? He doesn't say what will happen to me. It's just like when people go to doctors in India, they say, my friend is having this problem. They don't say, I'm having this problem, especially if it's something embarrassing. My friend is having this problem. What should I do? What should he or she do? And so, like this, Arjuna asks, suppose, hypothetically, person has a lot of shraddha, but did not make enough effort to get this knowledge in this life. What will happen to such a person? And ayatihi shraddhayopetah yogat chalita manasah kangatin krishna gacchati kangatin tata gacchati chinnabhramiva nashyati kim. Is the person destroyed like even the fog when the day dawns, when the sun dawns? Is everything, all the effort to waste? And Lord Krishna says, no. And he or she will be born to parents who love this knowledge, who have all the basis, who have provided the basis for this knowledge. Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Bhrashtha Abhijayate. Yoga Bhrashtha means the one that has slipped off, the one that has got derailed for some reason from the path of yoga, from the path of karma yoga here, and Abhijayate is born. Athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam. Or is born to yogis, which can also mean jnanis. So, therefore, here, that is not an everyday event. And therefore, this reparenting is needed because one has grown up cutting corners, telling all sorts of lies, and having a very loosey-goosey attitude where dharma is concerned. Dharma is like pajamas, loose and comfortable, and and it fits everybody. It's got a nice whatever drawstrings, and it can be made big or small, and it is just it you can just use it as you want. You can live in it whole day long, especially during the pandemic. That is how for 2 years, I think if they do an economic analysis, they will find that pajama sales must have gone up during the pandemic, because that's what people wore to meetings also, because only up till here it is seen. Underneath, what you wear, nobody cares. And so this is what the thing is. So dharma, like a pair of pajamas, it's very, anything goes. This is what happens. And this kind of a laid back attitude is okay with many things, but not with dharma. Really. Because, because the penchant for cutting corners, going around certain rules, is increases. And then, and those rules, going around certain rules, are always rationalized. How are they rationalized? Oh, I had to do it. I had no choice. Really? You had no choice? No, I had to do it or I had to quit. Better to quit. Is what we hear in the stories such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. And we have archetypes of people who followed dharma no matter how difficult things got, and archetypes of people who flouted dharma. Purposely, it's been given so that we see that. And so, this kind of a lackadaisical attitude with regard to values and certain the things that one must cultivate in order to gain this knowledge, especially if one is serious about this knowledge, is not conducive to the study of the Upanishad. This lackadaisical attitude has to be corrected, because dharma is not pajama, even though the last two letters end in mama. Still, it is not pajama. And even though they rhyme, dharma is not pajama. It is not like, oh, it is homicide is wrong. It's wrong to kill somebody, except when they really want what you are wanting, then it's okay. It's not like that. It's not like that. Anything you look at, because there are certain things which are non-negotiable. Defrauding somebody, non-negotiable. Taking something out of that belongs to somebody, non-negotiable. Deceiving someone knowingly, non-negotiable. And wounding somebody, hurting somebody, even through the saber that is called the tongue, non-negotiable. But that's not how we grow up. How we grow up, there is a split. This is the original Dvaita. The split is between the knower, I know this to be true, and the doer, the actor. The pramata is different from the karta. Pramata means knower. Karta means doer. So the pramatra is different from the kartru. The karta knows what I am doing is not in keeping with what I know. And that itself is the split, and that itself is samsara, and that leads to conflict. That leads to some kind of a disconnect. Disconnect first from oneself. And dharma, since dharma is not some kind of a mandate of the Lord, at least that is not how it is portrayed in the Hindu tradition. Dharma is a manifestation of Bhagavan. Wherever there is dharma, there is Bhagavan, including in one's heart. The kind of contentment got from doing the wrong thing, even though it caused you to sacrifice a lot of things you loved, is just incomparable. One feels, I'm so happy that I was able to do the right thing, even though it was very, very, very hard. Doing the right thing is always hard. Doing the right thing always is, big. It always assumes that there is sacrifice. There is deprivation on your part. Something you've had to give up. Otherwise, dharma becomes very easy. I keep, like elastic, I keep stretching it wherever I want. Here it is non-stretchable. This is what is called samanya dharma. So the first portion of the Veda is reparenting the adult, or rather, should we say, reparenting the inner child, inner children. Sometimes they behave like brats, inner brats of the adult. That kind of a thing. And then why does this reparenting succeed? This reparenting succeeds because if one is born into the Vedic tradition or one has adopted it as their own, there is some shraddha. The shraddha means faith pending understanding. There is a trust. There is a trust that this Veda is telling me something for my hitam, for my benefit. And it is not something that is, that is saying it just for the sake of it. Something good is going to come out of it, even though I had to give up something to somebody that I did not even like, that I do not even like. I have had to give up. With gritted teeth, I had to give up what was dear to me and yield to somebody that I just don't even care for. Why? Because it is the right thing to do. So, the first portion of the Veda, here called as Aparavidya in the last mantra. The Aparavidya, what does it do? It raises you, it reparents you on a diet of dharma. One is fed dharma. Dharma for breakfast, dharma for lunch, dharma for dinner. In the beginning, this retraining is difficult. It's just like after a stroke or something, learning to walk again. You need help. You need, above all, you need practice. You need to do that every day. You can't say, oh, it's too hard, I'm going to give up. Then the energy in those muscles will never be regained. So it has to be done every single day, sometimes many times a day. The physical therapy you cannot, bypass. And so here also, dharma is best internalized through enactment, repeated enactment. So the first portion of Veda is so beautiful. It is like a mother. What it does is it makes, for the inner children, it makes a big playpen. So sometimes this is the American practice of child rearing. You put a big, some kind of a pen with net and everything around, and you plonk the child inside it. And then you can do your chores and you can throw in a few toys. As soon as the child cries again, you replace the toy. Something new and shiny you put in there. And so the child or the children are continuing in the playpen and leaving you free to finish your work, leaving the mother and the father free to do this. And so the first portion of the Veda is a playpen. First thing that you see is boundaries. There are boundaries, and there is a certain delineation. You can't go out. You have to stay within, and otherwise you will fall, and this outside is a dangerous place. So the contours of the playpen are just vidhi nisheda vakyas. It's a playpen because the rectangle of or the square is made up of injunctions and prohibitions. It is a playpen made up of injunctions and prohibitions. That is the boundary of the playpen. Dharma is the boundary of the playpen, and you are repeatedly told to stay within it. And if the child somehow is clever and manages to get out of the playpen, firmly, lovingly, kindly, the mother will put it back inside the playpen. Here is where don't come out. No. Tell me what you need, you will have it right here. And so the child cries, the child wails, the child finally settles down. So too, the adult, the inner child who is very resistant to any kind of disciplining as far as dharma is concerned, is put in a playpen. And the four corners and the boundary, it's like a crib. So the boundaries of this crib, the crib is small, playpen is big. That's why I'm using the word playpen. So in the playpen, the boundaries constitute all the injunctions and prohibitions. But why do you keep calling it a playpen? What is the play inside it? Well, inside the sky is the limit. The Veda, the same Veda that disciplines you, recognizes that you cannot, quote unquote, control your desires. The desires are what? The force and the pressure of the desires is what is wanting you to flout dharma in the first place. And therefore, it is not easy to control those desires. In fact, if you start controlling the desires, then you are left with the desire to control the desire. What are you going to do with that desire? So it's an infinite regress. You cannot control it. And besides, as the Bhagavad Gita says, Kamosmi Bharatarshambha, the Lord declares, I am in the form of desire in every heart. Oh, yippee, then why do I need dharma? Why do I need this playpen? I can go fulfill whatever I want. Well, that's why it is best to read the fine print in the Gita always. Dharma aviruddha kamosmi. I am that desire that does not go outside of dharma. Inside the playpen is a world of possibilities. Oh, but I want money, which is out of reach. No, no, there are dharmic ways to get money. What to do? Do a homa, Shri Sukta homa. And do some other thing. I want a job, another homa, another puja. But I want some fame. You do one homa, Vashikarana homa, so that everybody comes under your spell. Only thing is, it's like makeup. It wears off after some time. You have to reapply. So you have to keep chanting the Vashikarana mantra. Varavarada Vasham me janamanaya swaha. That's what it is. That is a Vashikarana mantra. May I become famous, and may I become so charismatic that people look at me and then start giving me things even before I start wanting them. And sometimes people are not interested in things. They just want to, they want to collect people. And like these, whatever they call self-styled god women and god men, they want to collect people. They are also, for them also, Vashikarana mantra are very, very famous. And so you want education, you want to be bright as the sun in your studies. Medha suktam chant, do medha sukta homa. You want to be healthy, dhanvantari homa. You want to do this, do that. And you want to you want to marry somebody that you get along with. There is one Vishnu Sayujya homa. I have a question. What? Will it work even after the marriage? Yeah, sure. It will work even after the marriage. If you are perhaps married to somebody who cannot get along, do the homa anyway. It won't hurt. Well, I have another problem. What is that? Nobody in my house gets along. We have feuds from the Middle Ages, and now in fact we don't even know why we don't talk to the other group of relatives, but we don't talk. And then we have this problem, that problem, nobody gets along, everybody has a big ego. Then that is Samvada Sukta Homa. This is the last, the Rig Veda closes on this mantra. Meaning, the Rig Veda really wants you to get along with everybody. It closes on that. Aikyamata Sukta also it is called. It has gained a lot of traction during this whole interfaith movement. And so in a way, it's one of the first, it's actually an intra-faith prayer, because our tradition is so vast, it accommodates everything. But then people use it in interfaith gatherings also, about how to accommodate, how to get along. No, I want something a little more esoteric. I want to learn. I want Vidya. I want this. Yes, there is Saraswati Sukta. Chant that. I want Shanti. That also there are homas for Shanti. Manas Shanti. Chant that. Do the homa. Do the prayers. So one is fed on a diet of dharma, and all the desires are converted into prayer inside this playpen of various inner children clamoring for this, that, or the other, and biffing other children to get what they want. No, 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 be nice and just pray. Sit and pray. Pray together. Cooperate. And then there is as a result of this life in the playpen, going through the first portion of the Veda, one becomes kind of like the Devas, godly in nature. This is kind of illustrated in the story. There is a story that the asuras, the beings who are demonic, meaning given to adharma, complained. complained to, I forget who, must have been Brahmaji, Prajapati, somebody. They complained and they said, why are we being given such a bad rep? We have such a bad reputation. And nobody likes us, and then they say, oh, don't be like the Asuras, don't be like the Rakshasa. What's wrong with all of these people? And what's so special about the Devas anyway? And then Prajapati said, okay, we'll just do a small experiment. In one room, all the Devas, in another room, all the Asuras. And some, food, some very delicious desserts, prasad was given. Laddus and all kinds of things were given. Laddus for people who don't speak any Indian language. Laddu means ball of calories. Okay, yeah, a sweet ball of calories. And so all these were given. And then Prajapati said, I will come in 10 minutes and then declare who is the winner. And if you win this challenge, you can be just like the Devas, no problem. And so in one room, there was, after 10 minutes, when Prajapati came and saw, there was just sounds of enjoyment, smacking the lips, and just quiet sounds. And in the other one, there was cacophony. And you can only guess which room was occupied by the asuras, the one that was so noisy, and people were beating each other up and screaming and yelling. And so the challenge was this: eat the laddus, but without using your hands. Eat the laddus without using your hands. And then that is what the challenge was. And then the laddus were in a big kind of a, big vat of, in a kind of a big vat. And then because there were so many of them, and so they were trying to go inside the vat and try to catch the laddus by the teeth, and they couldn't get it. And they were yelling at each other. Some others were trying to throw the laddus in the air and then catch it, and you couldn't bend the hands. You could use the hand, but you couldn't bend the hands. Eat without bending the hands. That was the challenge. So they were going like this, and they were pushing the laddu up in the air with straight elbows and trying to catch it, and they were blaming each other, and they were doing all kinds of things. So, and in the other room where everything was just so calm, in the room where the devas were, they were sitting opposite one another and they were feeding each other. This is what they were doing with straight hands. They were just feeding each other. And then the asuras said, okay, we give up. We can't be this good ever. And so that is how the story is. And so this shows that this daivam, meaning the antahkarana shuddhi, what is called the cleansing, the purification of the inner instrument, mind, buddhi, etc., from the pressures of the ragadvesha, from the pressures of very recalcitrant and difficult desires, is this reparenting, is the sum total of the reparenting. And the reparenting is not harsh, it is in fact very, very loving. Just like the mother will throw a new toy into the playpen, similarly, a new homa, a new way of trying to fulfill this desire through dharmic channels is given repeatedly. And then the idea is, after a while, you're sick of the playpen. You say, is this all there is? A few other children? This is what, Vedic daycare. There are few other children, and then all these homas inside the playpen, some prayers, and some prayers which says, gimme, gimme, gimme. Yasho dehi, this dehi, that dehi, 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 dehi. Dehi means give. But then if you make that, if you make that long, the he is long, then the dehi is praying, dehi, dehi. Dehi means the one who is endowed with the body. So is this all life is about? Because you see, it's not easy to fulfill the desire, even with the help, the aid of Homa and everything. Homa has to be done properly. One has to mind the prayer. One has to mind when to. You can't just offer anything anytime you want. You have to offer whenever the word swaha or swadha is uttered. And you have to, everything has to be in order. Otherwise, the results will not come. Why? Because of one's own karma. The karma that is there standing in one's account is so huge that it inhibits anything that you want and gives you double helpings of that which you do not want, that you do not like. So then, after a while, one gets sick of trying to fulfill desires. That is the idea. And the heart that is purified from the constant pressure exerted by the ragadveshas is now grown up enough to ask some questions of inner maturity. Is this all there is to life? Is there something better? What is the purpose of life? Who am I? What is my place in the scheme of things? Why do I, in spite of having so much, feel a sense of want, feel a sense of disconnection, feel a sense of fear, pain, sorrow? Why do I do this? What is wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Or is there something wrong with the world? And who is this Ishvara? I have been praying, praying, praying. But where is this Ishvara? Who is this Ishvara? Is this Ishvara separate from me? Or is it the same as I? These kinds of questions for the mind to entertain, there must be a lot of space. Without the space, the mind will not be calm enough for the yearning. That is an uncultivated longing, not like cable TV, not like some kind of a dessert that you want to make and eat, but this is an uncultivated longing, much like the desire for air, food, clothing, uncultivated longing. Moksha is an uncultivated longing, just like the desire for food, clothing, shelter, air, uncultivated. And for every uncultivated longing, Bhagavan has provided the remedy here and now. The child being born doesn't think, maybe I should pack a sandwich, I don't know what I will eat. Food is already provided. And if you see National Geographic videos, the young ones make it to the mother's breast without a GPS, without the mother even telling them where to go. Here is milk, come here, otherwise you will die. No such instruction is needed. Uncultivated. The human child, when it is born, all that it has to do is open its mouth and air goes in, it starts to breathe. Same thing. Water, clothing, shelter, all that is needed is provided. And sometimes, the hunger is now, so the food is also needed now. If you tell a hungry person, in heaven there are lots of laddus, they will send you to heaven. They'll get angry. That is what they will give you. They will send you. This is what will happen. You can't do that. So there is an immediacy in all these uncultivated desire, food, clothing, shelter. And for moksha also, the desire to be free. Free of what? Free of being tethered to this playpen of wants. That is an uncultivated longing, which immediately requires attention. Provided one has grown enough to be able to entertain this need. And it's a funny need. It's the need where the fulfillment is already at hand. It's an as though need, because one is already free of the longing. But it is a need because this is not discovered. This is not properly understood, not properly appreciated. That is why it's a need. And that's why, this is exactly why the first portion of the Veda welcomes the person and very slowly makes them sick of the desires and grow into a person that is ready for this knowledge. That's why the sage Angiras says, who is Angiras? The teacher of Shaunaka, says the following: Dve vidye veditavye iti hasma. para chaiva apara cha. Two kinds of knowledges must be known. The relative, which is what? How to the knowledge of how to treat your relatives. Okay, yeah. So relative knowledge, meaning dharma, etc., and all this we have been talking about. And then para is what? Para means the knowledge. He says para is what? Para chaiva aparacha. Para is knowledge of Ishvara, knowledge as Ishvara. That is para. And so these two are there. And then the teacher sees a question forming in the student's mind and answers it before it is asked. So let us look at that question. Let us look at that answer. Okay. Yeah. Are you able to see this? Yes? Yeah. So then the question naturally arises, what is para? Tatra para Rigvedah, Yajurvedah, Samavedah, Atharvavedah, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chando, Jyotisham ithi. This is a kind of a show-stopping answer. It is just a very intense answer because first, which kind of vidya was mentioned first? Apara vidya. So, what is apara? So, what is apara is first discussed. Let us finish with the relative before going to the absolute. And you see that in the answer, the relative comprises 3/4 of the mantra, and the absolute is just a small little thing here. अथ परा यया तद अक्षरम अधिगम्यते. Few words. This itself shows that that's why the first portion of the Veda is huge and the Upanishads are slim booklets. Small little booklets. Kena Upanishad 1.5 pages, Katha Upanishad 10 pages, like this. And the first portion of the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, huge because they correspond to the compendium of human desires lurking in the heart, expressed and unexpressed. And that's why they are so big, because they address these desires and they address how to behave around them. So first, Apara Vidya is taken into account. Tatra apara. So now let us discuss apara. So apara vidya, what is that? Rig Veda. Oh, the whole Rig Veda comes under apara vidya? Yes. Yajur Veda. Oh, okay. Sama Veda. Atharva Veda. Oh, so all the Vedas are relative knowledge? Yes. Then what is then what else? Shiksha, the art of correct pronunciation. How to pronounce conjunct consonants, all these things. How to pronounce Mahaprana, because we get lazy when Mahaprana is concerned. Ramabhyam, you say. Instead of Ramabhyam, you have to breathe over it. And, and that itself is a way of losing weight. Yeah, that's why the Pandits in ancient times, they could have a cup of ghee with every meal, because that is the chanting of these Mahapranas. This is all comes under Shiksha. And then what else? Kalpa. Kalpa means how to do yajna. How to do the yajna. And what should happen first? What is the second step? What is the third step? Etc. etc. Vyakaranam. Vyakaranam means grammar. That is why we continue to have Sanskrit classes, okay? And because of this knowledge of Sanskrit, you can understand Upanishads. That's why Vyakaranam, it's all preparatory. And then Niruktam. This Niruktam is interesting because it is the first thesaurus, dictionary / thesaurus of the universe, written by a sage called Yaska. It is so famous and so ancient, even the Upanishad is quoting it, even though it's a secondary work. So you can imagine its importance. Very nice synonyms it gives, it's very nice. Like, if you look up the word Indra, it gives so many derivations of that word. It's very, very nice. In fact, you can Google it and download it. Not now, okay? Yeah, later. You can do that. So then, Niruktam. Then Chandas. Chandaha means prosody, the arrangement of meters. Which syllable is Laghu, short? Like hraswa. All the hraswas are laghu. I, u. All this is laghu. Then e, u, guru. Oh, I thought guru means teacher. Yeah, but here it is neuter guru. Guru means big. So when you put these laghu guru arrangement, then you have a nice, meter, mantra meter, anushtup, trishtup, gayatri. Shardula Vikriditam, the baby tiger at play. So there is so many, and the meter is also like that. It's just so beautiful. It's like a tiger chasing a ball in a playful mood. And so that's how it is. The meter also is. It's got a very nice lilting stop and go effect. And in the middle there is a little pounce as well, very, very nice. Shardula Vikridita, and Sragdhara means it is like a garland, and it is full of arrangements of all these things. And so those that are the guru syllables, it's not just long syllables are guru. Sometimes when the short syllable is followed by a conjunct consonant, that is also guru. Anything ending in anuswara, guru. So like this, this is all things of how the words are arranged. Jyotisham. Jyotisham is in between astrology and astronomy. And so this is all the Vedangas. Vedangas means things that are addendum to the Vedas, Vedangas. Then we also have Upavedas, which are not included here but must be included, like Ayurveda, Nakshatra Vidya, Shastra Vidya, all these things. And all these are Aparavidya. And as we are taking this whole gamut of list in, suddenly the question arises. Rigveda means, does it include the Upanishad at the end of it? Is the Aitareya Upanishad included or not? The answer is yes, because here it doesn't specify Rigveda except for the Upanishad, the whole Rigveda. Yajurveda, Kathopanishad, yes. Maitri Upanishad, yes. Samaveda, Chandogya Upanishad, yes. And then what else? And then Atharva Veda, this particular Mundakopanishad, yes, it's all included in what? Relative knowledge. So there goes the theory. What happened to your theory? That this is all the the relative is subserving the absolute. Then, if the Upanishads are all relative knowledge, then what is absolute? What is para? How do you get to know Paramatma as the truth of yourself if all the Upanishads are relative knowledge? Aparavidya, Rigveda, Aparavidya, Yajurveda, Aparavidya, Samaveda, Aparavidya, and then what else? Atharva Veda, Aparavidya. So you can be a Chaturvedi and still not have this knowledge. You can be a Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, doesn't matter how many Vedas you know. You're still as ignorant as ever. What is it? What is para? How do I get to know Paramatma? The teacher's response here is, just brilliant. Atha, now he says, para. Now I'm discussing the Paravidya. And what is that? Yaya, by which, tat, that, aksharam. Aksharam means that which is not subject to decay, the indeclinable, that which is not subject to decay. Adhigamyate is understood, even though gam dhatu is used. Gam means to go. Here it is not about movement because it is preceded by the prefix adhi. So adhigam, as we know, means to know, not to reach, but to know. Like sometimes we say, even in conversation to people, I know where your mind is going, don't go there. I mean, they're not literally going anywhere, but they are going on a line of thinking. So the word go here means, it is understood. It means to be understood. Go means to understood, adhigamyate, by which this knowledge is understood. This knowledge of akshara. In all this world full of all kinds of finite things, people, places, situations, etc., what is the one thing that is infinite? What is that which is not subject to destruction? What is that which is not which does not in any way change? Is that Ishvara? And if that is Ishvara, where is Ishvara? And so then what about the Upanishads? Well, the Upanishads are an assemblage of words. That's why it doesn't do if you read them. What happens if you read them? You get a headache. That's what happens. You can read the Upanishad if you have a couple of Tylenol by the side. You are equipped with Tylenol, then read the Upanishad. Otherwise, definitely confusion will come, frustration will come, and it will definitely end in a headache. Why? Because it's just an assemblage of words. And words, just like grammar, everything comes from the plane of, what is called aparavidya. Because it does not really convey the infinite. Words do not convey the infinite unless they are and until they are handled by a teacher who knows how to handle them. Until the words are converted into live pramana, the words are just a heap of words. Shabdarashi. That is how most of the people look at the Upanishad. That is how most of the people look at the Upanishad. It's a bunch of words. Oh, and very difficult to understand. Don't even attempt it, they say. But then it's a bunch of words. People are not clear. What can it give me? That is not clear. How to connect to it? That is not clear. And so, therefore, these two things are there. Two forms of ignorances are there. And both the ignorances must be dismissed. The ignorance of the relative is dismissed by everything, all the Vedas and Vedangas. But what about the ignorance of the absolute? Oneself as absolute, really, the oneself as infinite, that, requires what is called buddhi vritti. That is the yaya. Yaya means by which. By which what? Yaya buddhi vritya. What is this buddhi vritti? First of all, do I have it? Yes, everybody has a buddhi. And if you have buddhi, you will definitely have vritti. What is vritti? A thought form. This is a pot, is a vritti. This is a hat, cat, rat, mat, bat. Vritti, 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 vritti. This is what is called, the buddhi vritti. The whole world is understood through vritti alone. The jagat, whole world means jagat. The entire jagat is understood through vritti. Vritti jnanena adhigamyate. So when the jagat is known through the vritti, the adhishthana, the truth, the cause of the jagat is also known through vritti, because that is how knowledge takes place. It's not that, everything else is eaten through the mouth, but then only one specific food is inhaled through the nose. That cannot be. It's the same law. So buddhi is, the buddhi as though takes the akara of the object that it illumines. I think pot. I think of pot. And then immediately in the buddhi, there is potakara vritti. The whole buddhi, as it were, turns into the pot, imagines the pot. Even before you see the pot, you have already imagined the pot. And then you see the pot. Then there is a little bit of an adjustment. What is that adjustment? There is an adjustment as to maybe you saw a huge pot, and then here this is a tiny pot. What you are being asked to objectify is a tiny pot. So there is a little adjustment. The pot seen in the vritti was bigger or of a different color or of a different shape than the pot that is there, which is being shown empirically to you. So there is a little bit of an adjustment. So the cognition of anything is through vritti. And the cognition of objects and the cognition of the subject, of course, have to take place in the same place, a place of knowing. The faculty that illumines everything also illumines the nature of the self-illumining self. The self-evident self is also known through the same buddhi vritti. Where else will it go? It's not that everything else is known through the buddhi, and then the akshara, the truth of oneself, Paramatma, Ishvara, is known through some other, is known through the toes or through the nose. Not possible. That same faculty which illumines everything, illumines the knowledge that you are non-separate from Ishvara. Has to. There is no other faculty that illumines. And so therefore what? There is every cognition of everything in the universe is a two-part cognition. Two-part cognition. First part is, patakara vritti, ghatakara vritti, to put it in Sanskrit. So ghatakara, akara, form. So the whole buddhi takes on the form of the pot, and you see the pot shining in the mind. And then, as it were, the eyes, the buddhi sends its sentience. Listen carefully to this because it's very nice. So the buddhi sends its sentience through the eyes if some form or color has to be cognized, through the ears if sound has to be cognized. So the buddhi sends here, the pot is something to be seen. So the buddhi sends its sentience. See, the sentience goes through the eyes and wraps the pot that is to be seen, brings back the information, and that is the first part of the cognition. This is called vritti vyapti. So the potakara vritti, the whole mind turns into pot, turns into the nature of the pot, like it looks like the pot. The pot appears in the mind, part one. And part two of this cognition, that's why it's called recognition. It's a recognition. And so the part two is what? The sentience goes out through the eyes in the case of the pot, through the ears in the case of a sound, and then wraps that sound, wraps as it were that information of the pot that is to be cognized, brings it back. And the part two is that there is a certain adjustment that takes place. So the first part of the cognition is called, technical term, vritti vyapti. The second part is called phala vyapti. So you bring back the information of the quote-unquote real pot. Real means, empirically real. So you bring back the information of the empirically real pot, and then you adjust that, and that is called phala vyapti. Vyapti means, pervasiveness. To pervyapti means to pervade. And so this is a two-part thing for all the objects in the world. Whether it's cat, hat, rat, mat, bat, forests, and even abstract notions, such as time, place, etc. How much time has elapsed? Immediately the mind says 15 minutes have elapsed. And then you look at the clock and then you readjust the information. Everything is cognized through this two-part cognition, except yourself. So in the classroom, when the pramana is handled, when the heap of words is stoked into a live fire of the pramana with the starter fire, the starter ignition being provided by the sampradaya through the tradition of teachers. So that kindling which has come from Sadashiva through all the teachers, Dakshinamurti, starting with Lord Dakshinamurti, all the teachers, student who turned into teacher, another student who turned into teacher, like this. the student teacher parampara, that fire which is kept alive is, the Upanishad is lit. The words of the Upanishad is lighted up with that fire. Then it becomes live knowledge, and then it is transmitted to the buddhi of the student. And then what? A vritti is created. Akhandakara vritti, not pot vritti, akhandakara vritti. A vritti of oneness is created. Vritti is kshanika. It has done its job. It is, so as soon as you say, I know pot, the vritti dies away. Otherwise, you will see pot, and then after that, on top of that, you will see a flower, and then you will see an elephant. Then everything sticks in the head, and then you are seeing a elephant balanced on a flower which is on a pot. That never happens. That shows vritti is kshanika. It comes, does its job, goes away. And the akhandakara vritti is also kshanika. It comes, it lights up the heart, and immediately in the class there is a one aha moment or a series of aha moments, and then it has done its job. Because that to which it points is you, and you being self evident, nothing more is needed other than the pointing. In other words, there is only part one of eye cognition. Eye cognition as Brahman needs only the first part, vritti vyapti. For the antahkarana to be flooded by the knowledge of oneness, by the teaching of oneness through Shravanam. There is no phala vyapti because there is no Brahman outside to reach with the pramanas, eyes, ears, etc. and say, oh, I had construed a much bigger Brahman. Brahman in real life is not that big. There is no adjustment. No phala vyapti because there is no object. It is the knowledge of the subject. That's why the word yaya here means yaya buddhi vritya aksharam adhigamyate. Sa para. Lot to take in, and we will meet again next time. It will be on the 1st of May. Okay, 1st of May, this class will meet again. Bodhasara will meet when? Bodhasara will meet on April 30th. Okay, yeah. We are having a Homa, and so somebody can please share the flyer for those who have not seen that. You can download it here. Somebody can please share it in the chat pod. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Thank you very much. Om Namah Shivaya. Take care. Good night, good morning, wherever you are.